Welcome back to La Belle Vie. In today's video, I wanted to highlight some new matters that we learned in Charlie Adelson's trial that I believe further demonstrate the state is not done charging individuals in the murder for hire of FSU law professor Dan Markel. Let's talk today on who I think will be charged next. All right, first off, the grandma motion. Now, in Charlie's trial, we got more context on what the state refers to as the grandma motion. So to recap, the grandma motion is Dan's second counter motion to enforce the marital settlement agreement. And this one was related to parenting issues. He filed it on March 26, 2014, and he listed a host of Wendy's actions that he alleged violated the MSA. One being some concerning allegations of parental alienation by the grandmother, Donna. Taking the sunshines away, grandma hates you, grandma thinks you're stupid, that kind of stuff. Now, Wendy contends that Dan didn't really mean it when he wanted to prevent Donna from having unsupervised visits with the kids, because Wendy claims a few days later, Dan asked her to watch the kids and Donna made him banana bread. I think that George even called it the banana bread peace offering. Now, Wendy said her mom never even knew about Dan's counter motion to enforce the MSA on parenting issues, and she added again that Danny asked her mom to babysit a few days later, so clearly Danny didn't even take it seriously. Now, Georgia came back and said Wendy forwarded this counter motion a few days later to 12 individuals, including Donna. Now, not specifically related to the grandma motion itself, but again going more towards these issues of Donna and Charlie being involved with Wendy's post-divorce life and litigation. Now, these texts I'm going to insert here were all from February 2014. And if you recall, in the end of January 2014, Dan had noticed Wendy up for a deposition. In fact, Wendy tried to get a protective order prohibiting Dan from deposing her. Then on Friday, February 14th, 2014, Valentine's Day, wonder if Dan did that on purpose. Anyway, Dan filed his first counter motion to enforce the MSA, and this one was on financial issues. This related to that family law financial affidavit that Wendy filed, and Dan was alleging that she had not included certain retirement accounts and had made misrepresentations. And if you also recall that this MSA is one of two, the second one being the grandma motion, that were both pending at the time of Dan's murder. So Donna, Wendy's totally stressed out. Yesterday was a rough one. Now, this is dated February 15, so I assume she's referring to Dan's counter motion that he filed the day before. She'll probably have to go through another depo. Outrageous. Her attorney will claim he is abusing the justice system by filing repetitive motions on issues that have been resolved previously. And oh, by the way, the $500,000 account is the same $50,000 that he tried to get his hands on last time, but it was always in Wendy's name. Total waste of the court's time. Yesterday, he sent Wendy a text that he saw her leaving the school in our car at 2:07 p.m. He is stalking her. So Wendy's going to the daycare in Donna and Harvey's car and leaving at 2:07 p.m., right? That's before 4:30. But this sounds like the type of conduct that Dan complained about in his grandma motion that he brings a month later. This apparent practice that Wendy had of taking the kids out of school, generally in relation to what he called the frequent outsourcing of care to the maternal grandmother. And why he was complaining about that was because he said that led to Wendy's ignoring the preschool director's recommendations that the children be sent to preschool regularly so that they can enhance their social development skills. Here's more. She spoke to a friend, an attorney, about filing a protective order. Very hard to do that unless there's previous history of threats or abuse. I still think that she should let the judge know that he is stalking her. Anyway, It looks like mid-March or mid-April before anything will be resolved regarding him paying her through the court system. She went to lunch with another judge yesterday who told her that she would never have given him 60 days to pay. She would have given him 5 days to pay. If it wasn't paid, he goes to jail. Now, I was a little confused about this 60 days comment because as of the date of Donna's email, there was no court order regarding Wendy's October 31st Halloween motion for the rest of the money. So she couldn't have been talking about that. So what I think she must have been talking about was the terms of the marital settlement agreement, where Dan had agreed, to pay this $120,000 lump sum in exchange for Wendy, turning over the deed to the house, and that he was also going to pay the $10,000 to her attorney. So she's got to be talking about that because that was due 60 days from the MSA. But the thing is, that's a settlement agreement between Wendy, Dan, and their lawyers. Now, the judge approved the settlement agreement, and yes, if the judge thinks that there was something that was unjust or something in the agreement, the judge would address that in the court order approving the settlement. But otherwise, for this payment plan, 60 days, that's a matter of negotiation between the parties. Donna. She told Wendy that this lady is a lazy judge. Aside, guys, it looks like Donna's autocorrect on her iPhone presumably changed the spelling of Wendy with an I to Wendy with a Y. Going on. She sees 2 cases per day compared to most judges who sees 5 to 10 cases per day. That's why she waited 5 months for this hearing. Charlie. Her $600 attorney needs to give a refund or a letter of complaint to the bar. Now, is Charlie suggesting Wendy bring a complaint against her lawyer with the Florida bar? Or is he suggesting that her attorney make a complaint against the judge with the Florida bar? But Donna likes this. She says, absolutely. And Charlie says, is Wendy mad her attorney yet? Now, given the context of Donna's next email, I think what he means to say is Wendy mad at her attorney yet? Donna, yes, but don't get, is the supposed to be her worked up about it. She's too stressed about it. Let's just keep the conversation with her light and not add to what she's dealing with. Let her just get through Monday with positive family support. Nothing stressful. Trust me on this. Now, again, this is just my opinion, but this is weird. Wendy comes off as like a woman child, not a woman in her mid-30s with 2 young kids, a master's degree, a law degree. She's a practicing attorney. She's a clinical law professor. Also, Monday that Donna's referring to is the court hearing I mentioned in my detailed Markel timeline video. Nothing was actually decided during that hearing, which I think pissed Donna off. So then, on February 17th, the day of the hearing, Donna, are you at work or home today? Hope you're feeling better. Just left the courthouse. Charlie, at work. How did it go? Donna, okay, we'll talk later. So Charlie, the playboy, who cares nothing about Wendy's divorce, post-divorce, he cares about what happened? Continuing, Donna, Judge was really pissed off at him for not paying Wendy, but she will allow them to depot her with very strict limitations on the questions. Then Wendy wants the parenting coordinator questioned because she hates Danny and will ask the court to have him court-appointed psychologically testing. Charlie, her attorney is going to run up a very large bill for Danny. Donna, yep. Now, what's weird about this one, about the psychological testing and the parenting coordinator, I showed a related email from Donna to Wendy in my detailed Markel timeline video. And this was an email that Donna sent to Wendy that next day after the hearing on February 18th, where Donna calls Danny Elvis, and she complains that Wendy's lawyer is always on the defensive. And that's where she brings up this great idea to Wendy to get the parenting coordinator to either testify or be deposed so that we can get her to request that Elvis be court-ordered for psychological testing. So this all sounds like it was one of Donna's bright ideas, not Wendy's. Anyway. But then we get to parenting issues again with this next text on February 19th. This was about a month before Danny filed his counter motion to enforce the MSA on parenting issues, the grandma motion. And recall in that grandma motion, Danny mentioned gatekeeping of the children. Donna, if you speak to Wendy today, tread lightly. Don't ask questions about the depot, her lawyer, etc. Tough time, and she's really stressed out. The a-hole showed up at soccer yesterday, and when she tried to leave with the boys, he said, "No, stay here and play with Abba." She told the boys that Abba had to leave, and he said, "No, I don't." Of course, she woke up to another email from him telling her that she is lying to the boys about their father's whereabouts and that this will be brought up before the court. Such an effort. It was Wendy's day. He is allowed to attend the children's activity, but that's where it ends. Does this sound like healthy co-parenting to you? And we get further deflection by Wendy at Charlie's trial. When she was asked about the oldest child's school for the fall of 2014, she said, "We were trying to figure it out." Georgia said, "You were arguing about that, right? You wanted the boys to go to SAS." Wendy said they had put the older son in the lottery. Really? Let's contrast Wendy's take with the testimony from Dan's lawyer, Stephen Webster. Dan was really concerned about parental alienation. He was concerned that Donna was trying to drive a wedge between him and his children. And he actually heard her call him stupid on a Skype call, which made him livid. And he told Stephen that her calling him stupid is actually another incident that happened after he had filed the grandma motion. So Stephen Webster denied that things were going well with Wendy at the time of his murder. In fact, Dan had sent Stephen an email the day before his murder because Wendy, unbeknownst to Dan, had applied to have their oldest child enrolled in SAS, and she didn't even talk to him about it. And recall, this is exactly what Dan was trying to talk with Wendy about when he called her that morning. You know, when he told her where he'd be at the gym? And sadly, he was talking to a teacher of the SAS school when he was shot. Also, compared with Stephen Webster, Dan's attorney, and Wendy's attorney, in my opinion, Dan's attorney came across more credible. First, Wendy's attorney suggested that the parenting issues Wendy and Dan were having leading up to his murder were run-of-the-mill, including the allegations regarding the grandmother. But this is the thing. She said she wasn't worried about the allegations because they had the MSA. But she misses the point. The point was that Dan was alleging that Wendy was violating the MSA. Her lawyer also admitted that she didn't know if the things Dan said in his motion were true or not. I also thought it was odd that she had a client that recently had a deal similar to what the Adelsons were wanting to pursue with Danny, the $1 million bribe. And this was one where a former spouse apparently bought out their rights regarding relocation. And I'm not suggesting this is illegal or inappropriate for her to be doing. It just seemed odd to me that you'd buy out your rights. And her attorney said that was kind of weird too. But anyway, I just thought it was odd given the facts of this case. Finally, an interesting tidbit that Wendy's lawyer told us about when she was on the stand was that it wasn't just Donna that was at that relocation hearing in June 2013. She said that Donna and Harvey were there. So now we know of at least 2 hearings where either Donna or Donna and Harvey were in attendance in Tallahassee, 7 hours away. For again, a woman in her mid-30s who's a lawyer and a clinical law professor with postgraduate degrees. And again, remember, there was no allegations that Danny had actually harmed her in any way. And she made that clear. So what was Wendy so frightened of? All right, the next kind of area of information that we learned about in Charlie's trial was Halloween 2013. And actually the whole month of October, there was a few things that happened. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one. This was an interesting day. So first, this was a little over 2 weeks before Halloween, and it seems that there was an issue between Wendy and Dan which happened on their younger child's birthday. So look at these texts. Donna, horrible evening for your sister and for us. Dad finally had to walk outside to lower his blood pressure. Just awful. I can't even explain. On way back to Wendy's house with only the older child. Charlie, I bet. Let's talk this week. Now this, guys, was actually brought up by Dan in the grandma motion. So something happened on that younger child's birthday, clearly. Now, according to Dan's pleading, Wendy initially agreed to host joint birthday parties for the children. But according to Dan, he later repudiated that agreement and then refused to give Dan both children for an equal amount of time on the younger son's birthday in October 2013. And he said that this was particularly inappropriate because until nearly the last minute, Dan wasn't even certain he would get to have both children for the birthday party he had planned for his younger child, a party to which Wendy was invited. So he said that despite being requested to craft a workable clarification or agreement to deal with the children's birthdays, Wendy refuses to do so, resulting in Dan being forced to, resort to litigation. Now, here's what the MSA says on the children's birthdays. Each party shall have the right to spend time with the children on the children's birthdays. Now, I get in a normal situation, broad agreements like this, of course, each parent gets to spend time with their child on his or her birthday. But with this situation, I'm not trying to be Monday morning quarterback, but they probably should have been more specific on this issue. Now, the day before Halloween, we have some more texts between Donna and Charlie. So I'm going to insert them here. Donna, just got a text from Wendy casually mentioning that she's moving ahead with the purchase of the house that she liked. I guess she wants to do it before November 7th when she leaves for England. This morning was her last day with the boys for a while. How was your day? Charlie, she never told me. Why is she doing this? She never mentions it to me on the phone. I guess it's because it's stupid. Did Danny give her permission to move? Schools? Charlie, he will hold that over her and use it as leverage, especially after she puts money down. She is really stupid. Give them their asking price? I can try again, but I only talk to her about one time a week and leave about 7 messages. And then a little later, Charlie spoke to Wendy. I think I made some headway. Hope you're having an awesome time in Israel. Have a good night. All right, so then we get to Halloween, October 31st. We start off with a continuation of the Donna-Charlie texts. Donna, hi, honey. How are you today? Just got back from dinner and ready to go to bed. It's 11:15 p.m. now in Jerusalem. Saw a cute video today of the boys in their Halloween costume that Danny sent to us since he had them for the holiday. We put our good wishes for you in the Western Wall today. Love you and look forward to speaking to us soon. Hugs, Mom and Dad. Isn't that sad? Dan was still being so nice and sending her grandparents cute pictures of the kids in Halloween costumes. All right. Okay, Charlie spoke to Wendy for 20 minutes last night. She texted me today. She pulled the plug on the house. Donna, wow, Charlie, thank you again. How did you accomplish that? You are a miracle worker. Tell us. Charlie, for starters, Danny would have used any deposit Wendy put on a house as leverage. First thing she needs to do is get permission from him in the courts before she even thinks about anything. And I had 5 other really good reasons why it wouldn't have been the dumbest mistake of her life, second dumbest life. It took about 15 minutes of talking to her. I basically told her owning a house is like getting married. It's like dating. Why the F would you want to get married again? Okay, also on this day, Halloween 2013, Wendy filed her motion to enforce the marital settlement agreement and for contempt. She alleges Dan failed to make a lump sum payment of $120,000 and failed to pay her lawyer $10,000. The motion acknowledges that Dan had paid $50,000 of the $120,000 amount. Now, Wendy also testified at Charlie's trial that she backed out of the deal to buy the house on that same day, October 31st. And when Georgia asked her if she recalled that Charlie had told her to back out of the deal, she gave her text to read. Now, once Wendy read the text, she said she doesn't remember. Georgia then refers to emails that we weren't shown that refers to Wendy not being able to answer the phone, crying because she was upset about pulling out of the house deal. Now, she doesn't remember this because it was like 10 years ago. Now, also, Katie. Now, recall that Katie started dating Charlie in early October 2013. But specifically on Halloween, they were going to a Halloween party at Lincoln Road, and Katie said that they got in the car, and Charlie asked if she knew anyone that could harm someone, and she said yes. Now, she said she had Sigfredo in mind, but she didn't tell Charlie the name, and then the conversation, she said, didn't go any further than that, and she also testified that she didn't know who he was talking about that night. So I would say that there was a lot going on in October 2013, specifically in Halloween, but also, as we saw, a few weeks before that. And I'd love to know if there's anything more that the state has. What do you guys think? Now, in Charlie's trial, we also got more information on timing up to the murder. So we first learned about Harvey's birthday present. And what was it? Now, Harvey's 70th birthday was July 5th, and that was a Saturday when Wendy was in town those 2 weeks in South Florida before Dan was murdered. And we saw these texts leading up to the birthday from March 4th between Charlie and Donna. Then we've got these texts here on May 30. And then we have the texts here on June 7th. Now, Charlie testified that these texts were about Harvey's surprise 70th birthday and a caterer he hired to make paella. And he admitted he also stayed at Katie's house that night because the next day, on the 6th, his family was in town and he wanted to be closer. So was all of these texts just about paella? Or was it something sinister, as suggested by Georgia, when she asked Wendy if Dan's murder was Harvey's 70th birthday present? And also recall that March 4th text about driving, Gainesville. That was just 13 days after the Donna text where she said Wendy was really stressed out. So much that Donna told Charlie, don't ask her questions about the depot or lawyer, all of that. And then she told the story, remember, about Dan attending the soccer, and then, Donna ending with, he's allowed to attend the children's activities, but that's where it ends. I don't know. Interesting. This other piece of information leading up to Dan's murder was chilling to me, and I'm inserting it here. This is the text that Wendy sent to Dan on July 6th at 10:47 a.m., the day after Harvey's big bash, his big 70th birthday bash. Now, Rashbaum tried to make this sound innocent, in my opinion, by arguing that the Adelsons wouldn't hire a hitman to kill Danny when they knew that Dan had custody of the kids. Now, first, I've said in prior videos that, in my opinion, this is a non-argument because any murder for hire would have likely been done when the children were at school. I mean, you had two working parents, and that's actually what happened here, right? Remember, Sigfredo and Lewis followed Danny while he dropped off the children at school and then followed him on. But I think more importantly, I think the point of this text is to show that Wendy was wanting to make sure about Danny's physical plans to be in Tallahassee that week. She would have already known he had custody that week. And she would have already known that she had the right to the kids on that Wednesday night, the 16th anyway, per their parenting agreement. And in fact, here's the clause. Summers. Beginning in the summer of 2014, the parties shall have equal 50-50 time sharing on a week-to-week basis. In all summers, with exchange of the children to occur at 4:30 p.m. on Fridays. Summer shall be defined as the beginning and the last day of classes for the spring semester of the FSU College of Law, and it shall be defined as ending on the first day of classes of the fall semester. So long as the residential party is in town, The other party shall have time sharing Wednesday night from 4:30 p.m. to noon. So per the words of the MSA itself, Wendy's confirming with Dan, the residential party that week, will be in town. She knew he had custody. In my opinion, that text is her confirming that he was physically going to be in town. The 14th through the 18th. Next thing we learned is who made that Best Buy Geek Squad appointment for the morning of the murder. And this came up in Rashbaum's Cross of Wendy when they were talking about who had the Best Buy warranty, and it turns out the warranty was in Harvey's name. And during this exchange, Rashbaum brought up an email from July 11th, which said, if you can't keep, and it's from Donna, if you can't keep the appointment on the 18th, call this number to reschedule. So Donna made the appointment. I think we all thought that, but this confirmed it. Now, the day of the murder. Now, Wendy testified she didn't remember if Dan said he was going to the gym the morning when he called and left her that voicemail, when she was dealing with the Best Buy guy. Now, Georgia shows her the voicemail transcript where he said he was going to the gym from 9:15 to 10:30, but I'm happy to chat with you. Maybe we can go for a walk. Now, Wendy talks with Charlie minutes later, and so she says she doesn't remember what they talked about other than the Best Buy, the TV problem. She doesn't recall having told Charlie about Dan's plans that morning that he left on her voicemail minutes earlier. Now, Charlie's testimony on his 919 call with Wendy was he said he talked with Wendy first about the TV, but he also talked to her because remember he was in a fight with Katie and he wanted sisterly advice from Wendy. And he said he talked with her on his way up to Jupiter. All right, my takeaways and who I think is going to be charged next. I've always thought they had enough to bring charges against Donna. Just based on what we've had from the prior trials, particularly the bump and all those post-bump wires, as well as her crazy emails and the issues she felt about relocation. But as and I think all of us suspected, the state has more information that hasn't come out yet. And it's likely for strategic reasons. Now, what's new that we talked about today, not that there was any doubt, but this nonsense that Donna didn't know anything about the grandma motion is a bunch of you-know-what. And Georgia, in fact, impeached Wendy's credibility when she confronted her with the fact that she had forwarded the grandma motion to 12 people, including Donna. We also have all these new texts between Donna and Charlie, which again continue to show Donna's involvement in the post-divorce litigation. So, what did Wendy testify? That Donna was really just concerned about relocation? Donna and Charlie were all about all of the post-divorce stuff, which in my opinion shows Donna's frustration and very bitter feelings towards Dan. And if you look at their MSA, August and September were pretty booked up. So they got divorced on July 31st. And then there was a bunch of trips. Dan had trips with the kids in August. Wendy had some trips. And then in September, the MSA was very specific on their time-sharing agreement. And I think a lot of it was because there were two important Jewish holidays in the month of September. So it's not really until October of 2013 where you kind of have like a normalcy, right? It's been a couple months since the divorce was finalized. Well, then what did we start seeing in October of 2013? All the stuff we just went over, culminating in the Halloween drama. And then we have all the new texts in February, with, Donna being upset about Wendy having to be deposed and where the litigation is going. And of course, the texts, the birthday present texts. My only question is there's more of that we haven't seen. The other thing that I think implicates Donna is her text about call us ASAP the night of the murder. And you couple that with Katie's testimony that his parents had just stopped by when she got there at 11. So as I said, we've got the bump and all those wiretaps, the crazy texts and emails from Donna regarding the relocation, and now all of this new information. So in my opinion, I think that if they're going to be future charges, I think Donna is going to be next. And if you think about it, essentially the state's case for Charlie would be very similar to the one that would be brought against Donna. And also, the state's going to have advance notice of this extortion, double extortion theory. That's assuming Donna would even bring that same defense if she were charged. So I think that as far as charges go, Donna's the low-hanging fruit. I would be very surprised if we don't see her charged in the near future. Now, Harvey and Wendy. We did learn more about both Wendy and Harvey in Charlie's trial. I mean, we learned from Wendy's own attorney that Harvey was at that relocation hearing in June 2013. We also saw the text where Harvey was so upset and he had to walk outside the birthday party for the youngest child because to lower his blood pressure. So I think there could be more there. Now, Wendy, she's going to be the hardest one. I mean, first and foremost, the fact that she has use and derivative use immunity for the first 3 trials is going to be something the state's going to have to overcome if they're going to charge her. Because what that means is that anything she said in those 3 trials can't be used against her. So the state's going to have to come up with independently obtained evidence to support charges against her. And remember, she's had representation since the very beginning. Remember that Monday after Dan's murder, they're driving back to South Florida? She's already got a lawyer. And it's a high-profile lawyer. So she's been represented since the beginning. And in my opinion, too, from a lot of the stuff we've seen, I do think that she was walled off to some extent from a lot of this. But there could be more. I mean, we got that chilling text of her confirming that Dan was going to physically be present in Tallahassee for the week of the murder. We also know from Donna's text that Wendy was very stressed out about co-parenting with Danny and all of this post-divorce litigation. So maybe the state has evidence that we haven't seen regarding Wendy's involvement. Maybe not. Now, finally, on the defense's motion to interview the jurors. Now, as noted in my community page, the court yesterday denied that motion. If you want to listen to some legal commentary on that, Mentor Lawyer did a great video where he went through the case law on Rashbaum's motion, and I agree with Mentor Lawyer. And I heard also some people, when this was all going on this week, talking about Murdaugh, because we do have something similar going on in the Murdaugh case. I covered Murdaugh last spring. And again, that's a different case. It's a different state. But we're talking about potential jury misconduct, right? And there's a lot going on with that Murdaugh, the defense motion in Murdaugh, which I'm going to actually be picking that up again next week. But from a very broad perspective, here's the difference. The defense in Murdaugh made specific allegations of alleged misconduct that affected the verdict. And they included affidavits from some jurors. Now, how that all shakes out, we're going to have to wait and see. The state filed their response this week. But the point is that they made specific allegations and had affidavits to back them up and support. Now, here in Charlie's case, we have none of that. All we have here is that an alternate juror said that there was some group text that had been started a few days before he or she was dismissed, and that this person wasn't even part of the group text. That's it. There's no allegations of anything that could affect the verdict. No allegations that the jurors were inappropriately talking before deliberations. Nothing. So unless some specific allegations come out, like kind of what's going on with Murdaugh, this was all a nothing burger, in my opinion. Thank you again for joining. I really appreciate this community. I know many of you have been following this case for years, and I know I'm a newbie. I looked it up, and my first video on this case was in late March. But again, thank you to everyone who takes the time to watch, my take of things and to comment below. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you in my next one.